The Chancellor, Philip Hammond, has attacked Boris Johnson, saying the former Foreign Secretary is incapable of doing grown-up politics and that he doesn't think he'll ever be Prime Minister. He made the comments in an interview with the Daily Mail ahead of his speech at the Tory party conference today, in which he's expected to say business is a force for good. And the Chancellor joins us live now from Birmingham. Good morning to you, Mr Hammond. You've accused Boris Johnson of being incapable of grown-up politics. Given where we are, 6 months from leaving the European Union, I wonder if it is grown-up politics, this constant mudslinging between former colleagues.
Well, look, I'm not going to comment on something that was presented in a newspaper interview and that may or may not have been overwritten. Everybody's different. We all approach politics. We all approach business in
Mr Hammond, did you say that Boris Johnson was incapable of grown-up politics?
I'm getting your live feed message repeating. I can't hear what you're saying.
I'm asking you whether you did or did not say that Boris Johnson was capable, or incapable rather, of grown-up politics.
No, I didn't say that at all. I said Boris has his own way of doing things. Boris has a high-level view of politics, and his style of politics, which was very successful in London, is to use the force of personality in order to achieve his objectives. Other of us work differently.
The force of personality, but you can't deny that Boris does seem to get through to voters, doesn't he, in a way that others, perhaps Theresa May, don't.
Of course, Boris is a big personality. Nobody's denying that. What I'm saying is that the business of government is a process of attention to detail, follow through, lots of hard work. It isn't just about making flamboyant statements and big announcements. It's about getting things done.
Boris has presented a plan that he thinks would be good for the United Kingdom post-Brexit, a Canada Plus Super Canada deal. What's wrong with it?
Well, this is the problem, the lack of attention to detail. This proposal is not on offer. The EU has been very clear from the outset that it will not negotiate a UK-wide free trade agreement with the United Kingdom. The only way it would be prepared to talk to us about this kind of proposal is if we are prepared to separate Northern Ireland with a different regime and negotiate on behalf of Great Britain only. And speaking for myself, but also I know for the Prime Minister, the most important thing to us is the union of our four nations in the United Kingdom, and we are not going to sacrifice our United Kingdom at the behest of any bureaucrat in Brussels.
So if Canada Plus isn't on offer, Chequers was well and truly vetoed in Salzburg. Where are we heading? Dominic Raab today indicating that it's going to be a no deal.
So let me be clear. The EEA offer that the European Union have proposed is not acceptable to us because it would involve continued freedom of movement. The FTA model that some people have talked about, so-called Canada Plus, is not on offer because the EU have been clear they won't negotiate it for the UK as a whole. What Chequers does is offer an in-the-middle solution, down the centre, taking the best from both models and proposing a way forward which delivers on the mandate of the British people in the referendum, but also protects British jobs and British businesses.
But Chequers isn't going to pass the test. It's not going to pass Labour's 6 tests. It doesn't pass it with Tory MPs. 40 to 80 MPs don't agree with it. 69% of Tory members don't like Chequers. The Prime Minister's not going to be able to get it through, is she?
Well, if I may say so, I don't think everybody that's expressed an opinion on it really understands what Chequers is about. So let's let the Prime Minister and her team negotiate the details of this plan with the European Union. Let's bring it back, then Parliament can scrutinise it, have the meaningful vote, as we've promised, and then is the time for Parliament to decide.
It seems, though, that we are increasingly likely to be heading towards a no deal. Dominic Raab will say that there's a limit on how far we're willing to compromise. The European Union has said no to Chequers. If we're heading to a no deal, which you yourself have warned would have dire consequences, then what next? Would you then, given what you've said about a no deal, support a second referendum?
Well, I don't accept the premise at all. Of course, we must prepare for a no deal. That's the right way for us to negotiate, being ready to walk away. You should never go into any negotiation unless you're prepared to walk away. And it's absolutely right that government should prepare for all reasonably foreseeable contingencies. But no deal would not be a good outcome for Britain. It will have all sorts of consequences for our economy. And I'm absolutely committed with the Prime Minister to delivering a negotiated deal with the European Union, which gives us the 2-year transition period so that there's a smooth path from our membership of the European Union to our future outside the European Union. That'll be good for British businesses, good for British jobs, and good for Britain's prosperity.
But no deal is our plan B, isn't it? And what I'm asking you as Chancellor of the Exchequer is that if we end up in a no-deal scenario, what you would do next? Do you have a duty then to support another vote?
If we were to end up in a no-deal scenario, we have made our contingency plans for protecting the economy. And speaking for my responsibilities, I'm clear that we will have the fiscal capacity to support the British economy if we were, unfortunately, to find ourselves in a no-deal situation.
The aim is for this conference to focus on the domestic agenda, Britain post-Brexit. The government has certainly taken its eye off the ball with domestic policies since the referendum, hasn't it? Brexit only comes third on a list of what matters to people after the NHS and the cost of living crisis. What are you going to do to address that?
Well, I don't know how you can say that the government's taken its eye off the ball on the domestic agenda and then say the
eating
NHS,
itself up with infighting over what it's going to do on Brexit, and it's been stagnated by debate on where we're heading, whether we're having a deal, what sort of deal it's going to be. You can't argue against that, can you?
If you want to ask me a question, listen to the answer. You then say the NHS is the people's #1 priority. I agree with you. And just 3 or 4 months ago, the Prime Minister announced £84 billion of new money over 5 years, £20 billion a year by the end of this 5-year period, extra for our NHS in England alone.
Where's that money coming from? Fantastic news for the NHS, but where's that money coming from?
Well, there's a budget in 4 weeks' time. You'll have to wait to the budget.
So you're giving us the good news. You won't give us the bad news. Is it going to come from the taxpayer's pocket? Are we going to see an increase in taxes?
Prime Minister said at the time the NHS announcement was made that part of the money that we're using would come from lower subscriptions that we don't have to send to Brussels anymore. Part would come from the headroom we already have in our budgets, but people will have to contribute a little extra as we go into the future with an ageing population as we support our NHS. It is the public's #1 priority, and it is absolutely right that we support it.
So taxes are going up?
I'm not making any predictions about the budget at this stage. In 4 weeks' time, you can tune in again and you'll hear all about it.
But that's pretty clear. You're saying that the money is going to have to come from somewhere. It's going to have to come from taxpayers, isn't it?
What I am saying is that we are not going to break our fiscal rules as a result of the commitment that we've made to the NHS. Now, we do have some capacity within those fiscal rules. Our borrowing is lower than we had originally predicted that it would be this year and next and the remaining years of this forecast period. So we have some headroom, but the Prime Minister was very clear and very honest with the public. If we want, in the future, a growing NHS to support our ageing population, of course we'll have to accept that that means a little more tax to fund that service.
I just want to ask you, Chancellor, about another issue, leaders' debates. The Sky News petition to have an independent commission to organise leaders' debates at a next general election has surpassed 10,000 signatures. There it is, 11,662 signatures. Have you signed up, will you?
I haven't, no.
Will you support leaders' debates and an independent commission?
No, it's up to the leaders of the political parties to decide how they want to present their case, whether they want to debate together. That's a matter for the political parties to decide.
You don't think that it's in the interests of democracy to have independent commission and leaders' debates at each general election?
Generally speaking, I think it's good that leaders are seen to debate together, but personally, I don't think that a legislative solution which involves broadcasters is appropriate. I think that's a matter for the candidates, for the parties in an individual election to decide.
OK, Chancellor Philip Hammond, thanks very much indeed for your time. We won't ask you to repeat your impression of Boris Johnson this morning. Thank you.